Welcome back to the Charter Podcast. My name is Ruthie Polinsky alongside Alex Shapiro. This podcast is brought to you by St. Xavier University, and we are here on this beautiful Wednesday getting ready for the Bears and Commanders matchup that has been flexed into the 4:25 Eastern, 3:25 Central time slot on the CBS slate. And obviously, everyone highly anticipating this quarterback matchup. Number one up against number two, Caleb Williams up against Jayden Daniels. We are not so sure we are going to be getting that matchup as it stands at the time of this taping, Alex Shapiro. And I think for Bears fans, there's a little bit of mixed feelings when it comes to whether or not Jayden Daniels will be on the other side of this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, they flexed this, let's be honest. I mean, the Commanders are a good team. The Bears look like a good team. But the reason this was flexed was for Caleb Williams against Jayden Daniels. Daniels has been spectacular in the early goings of this season, and Caleb Williams has really come along. So, obviously, one camp says, I want to see that matchup of the number one overall pick and the number two overall pick. And then I know, there are fans. I know that there are people out there who say, actually, let's take the easier matchup without the rookie phenom and have a better opportunity for our team to win. Interestingly, I asked a bunch of Bears, hey, would you be disappointed if Jayden Daniels can't go? And to a man, the answer was pretty much no. Marcus Mariota is also pretty good. I don't know if you watched that Panthers game like we did, but he looked solid. So we're focused on whoever it is, stopping them, and they got two good quarterbacks. Obviously, Jayden Daniels is the phenom, but Marcus Mariota looked solid as well. So they were like, put some respect on Marcus Mariota's name.
Yeah, I think Marcus Mariota, 18 of 23, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks in that game against the Panthers. Again, let's remind everyone that we are aware the Panthers are horrendous and arguably the worst team in the NFL at this point. And I think obviously when you're coming in as a backup, you're out there, you want to improve or you want to prove that you still deserve to be a starting quarterback in the league. Marcus Mariota surely looked that way against the league's worst team. It'll be really interesting to see what he looks like if it is him against one of the best defenses in the NFL at this point in the Chicago Bears. I think that the Marcus Mariota storyline and saying, that's what you want the Chicago Bears defense to be saying is that, yeah, that's a pretty good, you want them to be taking this very seriously. But I thought what Matt Eberflus said was also really interesting on Wednesday. He talked about that this is really a scheme situation more so than it is a quarterback situation. And I'm paraphrasing, those weren't his words. It's kind of my words interpreting sort of what he said. But I think there's an element of it's the same offense regardless of what quarterback is in there. And Kliff Kingsbury's done a really good job of making his quarterback successful through the first, their first 7 games.
Right. Absolutely. He says exactly as you said it. Like the offense is pretty much the same. Obviously, what the two quarterbacks can do looks different. Jayden Daniels is a big time playmaker with his legs, can take off. His talent, his skill set is very different from Marcus Mariota's skill set. Now, Marcus Mariota, might not be as fooled by disguised coverages and post snap changes. You're going to have to challenge Marcus Mariota differently than the ways you would probably cook up a way to challenge Jayden Daniels. So it's the quarterback versus quarterback conversation, not necessarily the scheme change conversation. And what's interesting is going back to, the Panthers are a bad team. The Panthers also weren't prepared to play Marcus Mariota. They probably did no work against Marcus Mariota. The Bears now have the benefit of, you could argue it's a weakness that you have to split your time between two QBs. You have to split your time between preparing for Jayden Daniels and preparing for Marcus Mariota. But they will not be taken by surprise if Marcus Mariota is playing. They will not be taken by surprise if Jayden Daniels is playing. So that extra level of preparation is just an extra level of, okay, the defense should be ready no matter who it is out there.
Marcus Mariota also 11 carries for 34 yards on the ground in that game against the Panthers too, I should point out. Not obviously as mobile as Jayden Daniels and doing as much with his legs, but still able to to scoot around. So I think it'll be really interesting to see first of all, who it is at quarterback, right? And we could get a lot more information on this Wednesday. Jayden Daniels not practicing for the Commanders due to that rib injury. So right now it's looking like Marcus Mariota, which is why we're giving it so much attention at this time. Let's talk about, as we talk about this Bears defense, Matty Eberflus gave some injury updates, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that I would love for you to touch on, Alex Shapiro, since you are at Halas Hall today.
Yes, I am. You can see I have greatness, pursuit of excellence behind me as I'm in the midway here at the PNC.
So motivational. Yeah.
So motivated. It hyped me up. It hyped me up for this pod as I sat down. So the big ones are in the secondary, right? These are the ones that we've been tracking. So Jaquan Brisker, still not practicing as he is in the concussion protocol. Kyler Gordon, still not practicing as he recovers from his hamstring injury. But he does have 2 sweet new leg sleeves that you should check out on my Twitter. I have a sweet picture of Spider-Man over Seattle because he is Spider-Man and he went to school in Washington. But those 2 aren't practicing, and that's a big deal. Now, Elijah Hicks came in and I thought did a bang-up job replacing Jaquan Brisker when he was called upon. Same for Josh Blackwell, who really stepped up and answered the bell. But the Bears also got some good news. 2 guys who came back, Tyreek Stevenson, who's obviously that CB2 behind Jalen Johnson, and then Terrell Smith also returned to practice. So the last time the Bears played, they were down to their CB4, Jalen Jones, because their backup, or the number 2 guy and then the backup, were both gone. So they've got a little healthier corner, but into slot. And at safety, we're still in next man up mode.
Yeah, what concerns you the most there?
Honestly, probably Jaquan Brisker with the concussion, because it's not his first concussion. He's had several now. And I mean, head injuries are serious, right? Head injuries are very serious. They deserve to be taken seriously. Like, every injury is serious, right? But when it's your brain, I feel like a little extra attention, a little extra care should be paid. And they can extend. It's not like you have a hamstring injury, you have a knee injury. There's kind of this set timeline of, okay, we know how long it's going to take. We know the steps that we need to take. Concussions are still kind of a mystery, right? It could clear up and you could go through the protocol in a week, or it could drag on for several weeks. And we don't know, the symptoms, when do they wear off, right? I mean, like, even symptoms can happen right away, or symptoms can start later, as it happened with Jaquan Brisker, right? He self-reported later, hey, I took this hit, and then later I was feeling sick. So that's the one that concerns me, just because there's still so much unknown. There's not the timeline. There's not we know exactly what's going to go on with concussion, whereas other injuries, we know a lot more about.
Yeah, of course, there's always the long-term effects that we don't know about, which I think makes it that much, more cautionary. When you are talking about head injuries, they are cumulative, right? We know that each concussion can affect your brain more than the last. So I think the fact that the Bears are taking this slow, not rushing him back, is a good sign, but also, as you mentioned, concerning for the health of the player and in the immediate and long-term future. I think, obviously, we talk about those backups that came in that Jacksonville game who did a really nice job. Again, we're talking about the quality of the opponent and what it looked like in London. That is different. I think it's going to be a lot different in this matchup on Sunday in terms of the opposing offense and what that looks like and the confidence level heading into this game against the Bears. But I do feel like having those guys play in that game in London, again, adds confidence and builds, some chemistry, especially in the secondary. So to me, I think that is encouraging. Also, we got an update on Scott Daly, Alex Shapiro.
Yes. Oh my gosh, how could I forget long
How
snapper?
could we forget?
Well, we just got so used to Cole Kmet being a killer long snapper. He solved the problem. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, getting Scott Daly back is huge, because you don't want to be on long snapper 4, or I guess 5, if you're counting Cole Kmet as one of those long snappers, right? Daly was long snapper 3. They added a guy from the Lions to their practice squad as like in case of emergency, we have this guy to come in. But obviously, it's better to have that consistency with Scott Daly. And it was equally concerning when Scott Daly left the London game. He was like one of those knee injury insta out, which is typically a very bad sign. When a guy suffers a knee injury and within minutes is ruled out of the game, typically spells trouble. It appears that Scott Daly avoided a worst case scenario. The fact that he's back practicing is a wonderful thing. And it's good for the Bears that they don't have to be on long snap of 4 or 5, because, like some of those blocked kicks, some of those missed kicks, the kicker obviously takes the heat, but it's the full operation, right? It's the snap, it's the hold, and it is the kick. And they know that they have a small window. It's under 2 seconds. I forget exactly what it is, but it's got to be under 2 seconds. Otherwise, you are in danger of missing that kick, right? So it is an extremely precise operation. You need as much consistency as possible. So if Scott Daly is able to play, that is a huge boost to that special teams unit.
Yeah, you saw how it affected the Bears' game plan when Scott Daly went out of the game. They didn't want to punt. They were more aggressive on 4th down. And obviously there were the field goals, but again, one of those being the extra points and then the field goal being blocked at the end. Those are all things that are in consideration, and it affects the way that you play the game, right? When you're the head coach of the team, they did not want to punt because they were afraid of their punter getting hurt. So I think that, yeah, as you mentioned, it's the whole operation. Scott Daly coming back, I think it's a bigger deal than people want to give it attention for. So that's great. Another big storyline on this Wednesday, after we heard from QB1, Caleb Williams, he is going back home to Maryland, to Washington, D.C., where he grew up, where he went to high school, and he is trying to downplay as many of these storylines as he possibly can, which is what good quarterbacks do, right? But this is a big game for him. It's a big game for his family. He said he's using all of his tickets. Everyone's trying to go to the game, and he probably has a lot of other people who are taking care of all of those sorts of things, the logistics. But what do you make of the way Caleb approached kind of the storyline of being back in his hometown?
As you said, it's exactly how I'd expect. It's just another game. I wonder if that's actually true. Just like Caleb Williams says, I'm not nervous for my debut. Okay, yeah. I wonder about that. I think it is a big deal, especially when you consider he said that he hasn't been home like maybe 2 or 3 times since he left high school. Went to Oklahoma, went to USC. He says he's only been home 2 or 3 times. So I think it's actually a very cool moment that he's going to have the opportunity to play in front of his family, to play in front of his friends. And yes, if Jayden Daniels plays and it's number 1 against number 2, and he was just peppered with questions about these storylines, to the point that somebody was like, do you get why we're asking you these questions? And he's just like, listen, my job is to win on Sundays, maybe sometimes Mondays and Thursdays, but my job is to win on Sundays. And I don't worry about that other stuff. And that is exactly what you want to hear. I do believe that he is focused on the defense, right? He said, like, I'm upset that Jayden Daniels is hurt because you don't want anybody to get hurt, and he's a phenomenal player. And of course, like, nobody wants that guy to be hurt, but it doesn't affect me whatsoever. Like, I'm not thinking about that matchup. He's thinking about playing the defense, right? He's playing about the Commanders' defense, right? Not about the other quarterback on the other side of the field who he will never share the field with, right? So yeah, no, it's exactly what you would expect your quarterback to say. But I do believe it's probably a big moment for him to come back home and play in front of his friends and family.
And let's not forget about a homecoming for another star on this Bears offense and some of the games that he's had against the Commanders in his career, including last year's game of 230 yards. Just an unbelievable performance that we saw from DJ Moore last year against the Commanders. It was a career game for him. There could be a lot of Caleb Williams, DJ Moore in this matchup.
Absolutely. DJ Moore even through the media got a little jab in at Caleb saying, hey man, why don't you go to Maryland for school? DJ Moore, a Maryland Terrapin, one of the great Maryland Terrapins. Like, hey man, you could have just gone down the street, been a Terp. By the way, they took down your USC Trojans. So he got a jab at him through a member of the media because DJ Moore was waiting outside the press conference room. He was waiting his turn. He was next in line at the podium. So whispered in his ear, hey, I got a question for Caleb. So yeah, no, obviously it's a big deal for him too, because as you said, homecoming for DJ Moore as well.
What are some of the other things you're looking forward to when it comes to the Chicago Bears visiting the Washington Commanders? Because I'll give you something that I think I'm kind of interested to see is I think this Washington defense is a little bit unproven. So I'm really curious to see how this Bears offense matches up against their defense.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. Can they get a big road win? I mean, this is going to be their first time going up against like a big time opponent on the road. How do they respond? They've obviously been perfect at home. Playing on the road in the NFL is a totally different ball game. So when they hit adversity, are they able to respond like they were at Soldier Field, like they were at times in London? And like that was a home game, that was a road game. But playing in London is different from playing in front of like a really hostile crowd on the road, right? That London crowd, I'm sure, was mixed between Jaguars and Bears. So there's that. I'm also interested to see, are there any scheme changes, personnel changes? Because we know the Bears treat their bye weeks, treat their mini buys as self-scouting moments, right? They take stock. Hey, what are we doing great? What are we doing not so great? What are some changes we can make? What are ways we can iterate on what we're doing? And they've been really successful at that, coming out of the bye week, coming out of their mini buys. So we've seen a lot of this 13 personnel stuff, right? We talk about a lot, 3 tight ends on the field, and that's helped the pass pro. It's helped the run blocking. But it's meant guys like Tyler Scott maybe aren't getting on the field because there's 3 tight ends out there more often. Do the Bears find a way to get their run game going to help the pass pro without using the 3 tight ends so that they can go 4 wide more often? Things of that nature. So I'm going to be really interested to see in what ways are the Bears different coming out of the bye.
Really great points there, Alex. I think it's going to be really fascinating to watch Kliff Kingsbury in this matchup, regardless of who his quarterback is. This was a guy that was interviewed for the offensive coordinator vacant position for the Bears this offseason. Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles interviewed Kliff Kingsbury for that opening and chose to go with Shane Waldron over Kliff Kingsbury. And if you ask me, I haven't talked to Kliff, but I could imagine he probably wanted to go coach Caleb Williams. You know, if he had his choice, he was with him at USC as a senior offensive analyst, which is kind of unclear as to what that means. But I think Caleb Williams said in his press conference, he basically was there to help him get ready for the NFL. So we love to see that. And hopefully all that work that Kliff did at USC pays off when Caleb Williams goes up against Kliff Kingsbury's new team and not that Caleb's going up against Kliff, but you understand my point here. I think that's going to be a really interesting to see what Kliff Kingsbury dials up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kliff Kingsbury has been a sort of QB whisperer, right? Some guys get this kind of rep, and he's deserved it. I mean, he's worked with a lot of incredible quarterbacks. He's working with Jayden Daniels now, worked with Kyler Murray. He worked with Caleb Williams. And by the way, how about the guy everybody wants to find the next guy, Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick Mahomes is the guy. That's also a Kliff Kingsbury product. So, yeah, I mean, it would have been really cool to see a Kliff Kingsbury, Caleb Williams reunion back in Chicago. Obviously, things didn't work out that way. It looks like it is working out for the Commanders. So we'll see. What does Kliff Kingsbury cook up for Marcus Mariota? Is Marcus Mariota now going to become this great air raid quarterback because he's got Kliff Kingsbury helping him out? We'll see. We'll see if there's an air raid offense with Marcus Mariota, or similar to the Bears making changes out of the bye. The Commanders aren't coming off a bye, but now that they are preparing for life with Marcus Mariota, do things look different for Marcus Mariota? What is Kliff Kingsbury gonna cook up? That's a great call, Ruthie.
I also think it's interesting because obviously Jayden Daniels wants to play in this game. And I think if the Commanders had their choice, Jayden Daniels is their starting quarterback. They want Jayden Daniels to play in this game. So if he does play in this game, if he's not practicing on this, as the train, hopefully you didn't hear that. Loud train, by the way. Okay, love. Jayden Daniels, if he's not practicing on Wednesday, I find it hard to believe that he is going to be feeling 100% on Sunday. So even if Jayden Daniels does play on Sunday, what version of Jayden Daniels is playing? Will he be less mobile? Will he not run as much? How well can he really throw the ball? I know there are a lot of different things you can do to make him feel great on game day, but how sustainable is that? So especially when you're going up against this Bears defense that has done a really nice job, relatively speaking, of affecting a quarterback.
And Matt Eberflus has been so much more aggressive over the past year and a half than he was his first year and a half. When he really got his fingerprints on it and the Bears needed to figure out their pass rush problems, he got way more aggressive. What are they going to cook up to harass him, to make him even more uncomfortable? Like, they're not going to take it easy. If he plays, they're not going to take it easy. Like, oh, his ribs hurt. Let's go easy on the guy. No way. They're going to try and make him as uncomfortable as possible. So that's another kind of wrinkle, right? If Marcus Mariota is in, will they be less aggressive? If Jayden Daniels is in, what do they do to make him as uncomfortable as possible? Make him, kind of tilted, I guess, a little bit. I don't know what's the right term, but what do they do to harass him? So, there are just so many wrinkles here. And over the next couple of days, we'll get some answers, but I think it's going to be a lot of intrigue leading up through Sunday's game.
Let's not forget, this is a Montez Sweat revenge game as well. So how about a big game from Montez Sweat? I would love to see that. I think everyone's been kind of waiting for that. And I think this provides sort of an emotional aspect to seeing Montez Sweat. Let's see him get to the quarterback and see him change this game, because this is a place that traded him away. They didn't want him. So I think that always is a storyline that can impact a player and the way that he performs.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been pretty solid. He's gotten the quarterback a little bit. Like,
a little bit.
Fans want to see the strip sack every game,
right.
And he certainly has that capability. And the second half of the year he had last year was ridiculous.
Sure.
But that's maybe another thing. Hey, do Travis Smith, the defensive line coach, and Eric Washington and Flus get together and cook something up for Montez Sweat to try and get him free so that he can put on a show for his former team? Again, so many storylines, so much fun.
So many storylines, so much fun. I think whether or not Jayden Daniels plays, we get to talk about it all week. So that's going to be really fun. And just a reminder to make sure you tune into the Big Pro Football Show on Chicago Sports Network, where we will be discussing this matchup as well every night at 5:30. Alex Shapiro and I will be back to preview this game on Friday with hopefully someone from the Commanders side of this matchup. And we are looking forward to another great week of Chicago Bears football, aren't we, Alex?
We are. We're back. The bye week. It was nice to have a little rest.
It was long.
Take care of the body. Take care of the mind. It was long. It's good to be back at Halas Hall. It's good to be back talking about a real football game coming up on Sunday.
It's very exciting. Alex Shapiro, thank you so much. And thank you for listening. I'm Ruthie Polinsky. This is the Charter Podcast, brought to you by St. Xavier University.